Hello, Daniel here with the Pedal Peasants YouTube channel. Thank you for watching my video. I appreciate your time. In today's video, I want to share with you how to go about replacing the back tire for the Razor Pocket mod. Within this video, should you have any questions at all, I'm going to highly encourage you to drop a comment down below. I will do my absolute best to assist you in the best possible direction. Please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and ring that bell for me, as I will be bringing more videos like this for you all. With that being said, let's dive straight on into this. Now, starting from the top, I want you to know that this is going to be a step-by-step. I'm going to explain as much as I can. I'm going to be as thorough as I can, from the tools that you need to what I'm going to be doing with my screws, everything in between. So I'm going to relay as much information as I can. One thing that I recommend is to watch this video before you start actually doing the back tire, so that way you could be acquainted with the process and know where to begin. Feel free to come back and re-watch the video, so that way you can be more familiar with the process should you need to do so. So first and foremost, we're going to need patience. We definitely want to take our time with this process, as there is a little bit involved. This is the back wheel that we are dealing with. The front wheel is a lot easier. I'll make another video for the front. This one's going to be for the back, just to confirm. These are the tires that I got. I will link you down below, so that way you can pick these up on your end should you need some spares for your Razor Pocket mod. These are 12.5 by 2.5 if I'm correct, and again, links will be for you below. I'm going to be using one of these to replace the back, and then I'm just going to have the other one for spare should I need to replace out another tire in the future. Here is the brand new tire that I'm going to be putting on this back wheel of the Razor Pocket mod. And I am being a bit thorough here, but I feel it's important to do step by step. The first thing that I'm going to do is start with taking off these screws right here. You want to have a bow or something to put these screws in, because there are going to be more screws and washers along the way. So you're going to want to start with a star Phillips screwdriver here, and then you're just going to want to remove this plastic panel, so that way we can proceed. There is 6 screws total right here for this plastic panel. There's going to be 4 small ones where the rear wheel is at, and then the longer 2 screws, and you'll see what I'm talking about on your end for your pocket mod, are going to be for the other 2 panel by the motor area. So just to confirm, when you're putting them back on, the smaller screws are going to go right here in this area where the rear wheel is at, and the longer ones are going to go where the motor housing is at. And I just wanted to confirm that, and I'll go ahead and mention that again later as we reassemble. So once we removed all of the screws, we're now free to remove this plastic panel, and it comes off like this. It's actually in 2 different pieces, and it kind of just slides out. You kind of just have to work it until it slides out. It shouldn't be too difficult. I would recommend to get a bowl of some sort, so that way you can place all of these screws and washers from the Razor Pocket mod into the bowl, so that way the workflow can stay smooth, and then that way we have everything we need when it comes back time to reassemble. Now what I want to do is start taking tension off of this back wheel, and there is this part right here that you're going to see, and you can actually lift it up very easily with your finger like so. I'm going to lift this up to release the chain. This way I start taking off tension from the back wheel. Once we do this, you're going to notice that there is a lot of tension taken off the chain, and this is good. This is the right direction. So we're done with this side for now. I'm going to navigate over to the other side, and we're going to start working on the brake before we begin to remove the tire. The only way to do so is to remove this part of the brake. So on this side, there is a screw, and I'm actually going to tell you the size of the tools that we're going to need here. Let me show you a different angle. This is the screw right here that we're going to want to remove. This needs to come out in order for the entire back wheel to be removed. So this is going to be the next step. We want to remove this screw. Now my terminology may be a little off, but forgive me for that. I'm going to be using 5/16 for the brake screw that I just showed you, and then I'm going to be using a 15 mm for the biggest bolt on the back. And again, if my terminology is off, I apologize. I will do my best to relay the information here. So these are the sizes that I'm going to be using to remove the back wheel here, and this is the 15 mm that I mentioned right here for these bigger bolts right here on the side. And just for the process in general, we're going to want to use a Phillips screwdriver. And I'm also going to be using this 5/16 wrench, if I'm correct, if that's the name of this tool. I'm going to be using that as well on the other side to hold the screw on the other side. So you're going to need 2 5/16 in order to get this little brake part off right here. And I'm going to start with removing this first. This is what these screws should look like right here. And again, when we're done, or when we're disassembling along the way, I would highly recommend to place all of these in that bowl, so that way when we reassemble, everything is easy to grab and ready to go. The next thing that I'm going to do is use the 15 mm, and I'm going to remove these back bolts right here. Once I got to a certain point, I'll remove the bolt with my hand, and you can see there is a washer right here. I don't want to lose any of these pieces as I'm going to need them for reassembly to make the bike function. So be sure to keep track of all of these, put them in that bowl so that we can have them for reassembly. You can see the wheels now getting a lot looser, so we're getting somewhere. There's this little bolt right here that we have to loosen up so that way we can disconnect the brake cable from the back right here. Here's the size that I'm going to be using to remove this brake bolt. It's going to be either 1332 or 332. Forgive me for that. There's a glare, so I can't really make that out. You can see that this wheel is really loose now. However, there's one last thing that I'm going to do to release some more tension on the chain. This is going to allow me to remove the chain so that way the wheel comes out. On the same side where the chain is, there's this little tension wheel right here that I'm going to want to pick up, and then I'm going to want to remove the chain from this wheel. This is the next step that I'm going to be taking, and what this is going to do is it's going to remove any remaining tension on the chain so that way I can easily remove the chain and get the wheel off. Just for reassembly reference, there is this washer right here that is originally on the right side when the bike is face up like this. I'm just going to throw that in the bucket, and just for, again, reference later on, it goes on the right side of this scooter here. Now I'm going to be picking up the tension wheel to release the tension on the chain so that way I can take the back wheel off. From here, I can easily remove the chain, and you're going to see the back wheel is now free. So we are now about 40% done. I would say we're halfway through when we get the old tire off and put the new one on. I'm going to share with you a secret on how I went about doing that. Next thing I'm going to do is get the brake guard. It just slides right off, and I'm going to place it in the bucket so that way it's with everything else. For reassembly reference purposes, there's a thin washer on the left side of the back wheel. So when we reassemble, we're going to want to know that this thin washer is going to go on the back wheel on the left side where the chain is. I know that we're changing out a flat tire, but I still recommend to attempt to remove any excess air that still may be within the tire to make the process easier. In my opinion, removing or putting on a tire is probably the hardest part of this process, but I do use zip ties to make it tremendously easier. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get zip ties. I'm just going to run them through the rim like you see me doing here, and I'm going to tighten them all the way around. Once we've done that, we're going to have to put in a little bit of elbow grease here on this next part. You can use a bike tool that's designed for bike tires. I'm going to be using this metal crowbar right here. I don't recommend doing that as you can cause damage, but I'm going to meticulously use it in this method right here. So I'm placing the crowbar on the inner lip of the rim, and I'm pressing it up against the tire and over the other side of the lip. And I'm going to do that until I get to a healthy place where I can take it off by hand. Now we're at the point where the back tire is now removed, and that is the old tire, and this is the Razor Pocket Mod rim right here with nothing on it. This next step right here is 110% optional. What I'm going to do is I chose to place the rim back on, and I just put the right bolt just to hold it in place for me, and I'm going to line this with Gorilla Tape. This is the black Gorilla Tape right here, and I'm just going to carefully line the entire rim all the way around with this Gorilla Tape. For me personally, the reason why I'm aligning the rim is because I don't want my tubing sitting on metal or whatever lining was existing. I do feel like this may in theory preserve the life of the wheel and the inner tubing. I want to make sure that I don't add layers of tape on the rim, as I just want to add one single layer for cushion, and I don't want to forget this part right here. This is where the tubing is going to go, and make sure that you're removing all of the Gorilla Tape from the rim so that way the tubing can fit through easily. If you don't remove the excess tape within that hole where the air tube goes, then we're not going to be able to push it through easily, and it may cause some issues along the way. So you can see I zip tied the new tire right here the exact same way that I did the old one. I was just more meticulous, and I did it with a little less pressure along the way. I didn't really pull it as tight. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to kind of just place it on by hand. So this hole that I mentioned, I kind of put the Phillips screwdriver through there, and I scraped away all the excess tape, and then now I'm going to pull it in through this side. Now if you have pliers, you can probably grab it and then pull it through. For me personally, I want to be able just to grab it with my fingers. I just don't really want to cause damage to the threading. I would prefer just to pull it through with my fingers, and if I'm not able to, it's probably because there's too much Gorilla Tape on the rim of that little hole there. So what I'm going to do here is, you see I'm just placing it on the ground now, and I'm just simply going to press down all the way around and apply enough pressure so that way I can get the tire over the lip onto the rim. For this process, I would recommend using gloves. If you don't have gloves available to you, I would recommend putting like maybe a rag or a shirt to create a layer over the tire. This right here will make it a little bit more comfortable for you to push a little bit harder over the lip of the rim. I am now done with putting the tire on the rim. Now at this point, what I'm going to do is remove all of these zip ties and put some air into the tire. For these tires specific, it is 40 psi, so I'm going to fill the tire up to 40 psi. I'm just going to keep an eye on it. It feels great. It looks great as well. It's a brand new fresh tire, and it feels as though it is holding air, which is a good thing. By the end of this video, you will be able to see the results of this whole entire process here, so be sure to stick around for that. From here, I can begin to reassemble. So where I'm going to begin is I'm going to place the brake plate back on, and then I'm going to place this washer over the brake plate as you see me doing here. And on the other side, we're going to place that thin washer back on as well. From here, I'm going to make sure that I have the chain side aligned with where the chain is, and then I'm going to place it back on to this rear axle right here, if that's the right terminology. I'm just placing the wheel back onto the scooter here. As we're putting the back wheel on, we also want to work the chain back onto its original axle, if that's the correct terminology. So I'm just going to grab the chain, I'm going to place it around, and I'm just going to kind of rotate the wheel so that way the gears catch on the chain and pull the chain on. The next part is to grab the 15mm bolt and the washer with the hook on the end. You place the washer on first, and the little hook is going to go into the hole, and then we're going to place the bolt on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten by hand. I will go ahead and tighten by tool later on. And we're going to want to repeat that process with the other side as well. The washer did end up bending on me, almost breaking. I didn't really want to try to bend it back into place and then it kind of just snap off. So I did manage to put it back on, and that little area where it bends out of place does manage to catch on an area on the bike. So I just kind of held it in place, put the bolt in by hand as well. Everything is just hand tightened at this point. The next part is assembling this brake side right here. So where I'm going to begin is I'm going to line up this little brake plate, and then what you're going to want to do is the way that it goes is it's going to go the silver plate first, and then the black plate, and then it's going to go ahead and go into the little side panel right there that's welded onto the frame of the body. Just to confirm, it's going to be the silver plate first, and then the brake plate, and then that's going to go into the frame of the body. Now, the next part is going to be connecting the brake cable to the brake plate. What I'm going to want to do is get this screw. The screw is going to be facing out towards this area, as you see right here, and not towards into the wheel. It's going to be facing out, facing away from the wheel. And then we're going to want to put the little washer and then the screw. So just to confirm, the screw faces away from the rim, and then it's going to go washer and then screw. So that is the reassembly. Make sure that you also see the spring around that little hook right there. Now on this part right here, what I'm doing is I'm putting in the washer first and then the other screw for the brake plate. And as of right now, I'm still only tightening by hand. Once I have everything assembled and in place, I will go ahead and tighten by tool when I'm done. I am just about ready to begin tightening everything with tools now, so that's the next step, and that's what I'm going to do here. After I tighten everything by hand, I just want to make sure that I go back and I put the chain back on the tension wheel. This is a very important step that we don't want to miss, as this is going to make sure that the scooter runs smoothly. I don't know what would happen if we don't put the tension back on the chain. However, this is a step that we don't want to miss. So just make sure that when we're done, we put the chain back on the tension wheel. One of the last things that I need to do here is place these plastic chain guards back on, and remember that it's going to be the small 4 screws are going to go on this rear panel back here, and the longer screws are going to go towards the front of the plastic plate. Now the only thing left to do is to give the scooter a test run. Before my daughter tried it out, I actually went out and gave it a test run, and it was working fine. I wanted to let her ride it again to let her know that it's working. But there you have it. That's how I went about replacing the back wheel to the Razor Pocket mod. Should you have any questions, drop them down below, and I will do my absolute best to assist you with the best possible direction. Please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and ring that bell for me, as I will be bringing more videos like this for you all. I do have social medias under the same name as my YouTube channel. I would truly appreciate the support over there as well. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your time. You have a great day.
How's it running?